There was a beautiful woman who was a mother who was taken from her kid by a monster.
A horrific shooting.
It was such a violent act. Shooting 8 times into another human being.
A dark mystery with multiple suspects.
In this case, we have a very manipulative, overpowering, and influential predator.
It's a true crime of passion. If I can't have you, nobody can. Pow, pow.
Maybe this is kind of a conspiracy to cover up the homicide.
The truth will be revealed.
Stories upon stories, they were all fiction. He was the one that wanted her dead.
Could he have shot her? Absolutely.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. Pinellas Park, a small city just outside of Tampa, Florida, known for its easy proximity to beautiful beaches and lush greenery.
You have your wealthy elite, you have your folks that are just getting by. Florida in general is a very transient state, but most of these people were here for generations. I don't think Pinellas Park sees the type of crime that we see in Tampa.
It's a fairly peaceful community. I would say the most common type of criminal activity in Pinellas Park is drunk driving, then your occasional car break-ins. It's certainly not the murder capital of the world or anything like that.
It's the day after the 4th of July, a Saturday night, and neighbors report hearing firecrackers just after 11 o'clock.
It's a weekend. So 4th of July weekend, you're gonna hear fireworks and stuff going off for like 2 or 3 days.
The sound doesn't draw much attention until one resident discovers the pops are not celebratory.
Troy indicated that he had heard what he believed to be firecrackers. When he went outside to see what it was, he noticed the garage door was up, and he saw his girlfriend, Sandy, bleeding profusely inside her car.
First responders arrive on the scene, followed quickly by lead detectives Harry Agello and Paul Andrews of the Pinellas Police Department.
They realized it was something severe, so I was notified and responded to the scene.
The car was sitting in the garage. The body, Sandy, is in the car, and there's a large amount of blood and broken glass all over the place.
She suffered 8 separate gunshot wounds to various parts of her body, starting with her head, her torso, and the bottom of one of her feet. And initially, just looking at the shell casings, it looked to me like they were what they turned out to be, which was a .22 caliber weapon. It appeared to us that she had just been ambushed, that someone had waited or followed her to her garage before the shooting occurred.
The victim is 37-year-old Sandy Rozzo. She's rushed to the hospital but dies on arrival, and the case is officially declared a homicide.
In this particular case, it was such a horrendous act. You know, shooting someone 8 times, that is overkill.
Gunshot wounds can tell a certain story by their placement and by their number. So the victim being shot 8 times, we see that rage, that lack of impulse control seeping through. That suggests that this isn't, for instance, a professional hit. Someone has a pretty specific reason why they've targeted her.
But who would want to kill Sandy, a loving mother and former model, who worked hard as a bartender to make a better life for her and her daughter?
Sandy was a very devoted mother to her own daughter, Giovanna. She was always very friendly with people, very vivacious, outgoing personality. Everybody that knew her liked her. What made this shocking was the fact that a young lady was ambushed in her garage for no apparent reason at the time, just coming home from work.
Detectives must now solve Sandy's murder by focusing on the last 24 hours of her life, starting with the crime scene.
Her purse was intact, her wallet was there. No items were found to be missing.
This was not a random act of violence. This was not a robbery. You don't shoot somebody 7 or 8 times to rob them. You shoot somebody 7 or 8 times to make a point. This was personal.
The detective's top priority is to speak with Sandy's live-in boyfriend, Troy.
Well, oftentimes when someone is a victim of a homicide, it's someone very close to them or who knows them that's the suspect.
Troy must know something. He knows this woman intimately.
But when police first try to talk to Troy, he's nowhere to be found.
We were told that he'd left the scene. The patrol officers on scene thought it was unusual that Troy had left.
We find out he went right to the hospital. But that raised a red flag with people because he wanted to lock the house up before he left. Well, that's a little odd. You've got a crime scene. You've got all these police here. This is the safest address in Pinellas County when you've got 15 cops here. What do you need to lock your house up for?
Troy's just focused on locking up the house. Why? What does he want to prevent people from going in to find? But at the same time, it could be a response of someone who is confused, is probably scared to death. And what do? We batten down the hatches. Either way, that immediately is suspicious and needs digging into more deeply.
Detectives have Troy come down to the station for questioning.
He was a mess, as you would expect him to be. He said that he last saw her as she left for work that same day. They worked 2 different schedules. He worked days, she worked nights.
Troy tells detectives that the morning of July 5th, he went to work at 5 a.m. and Sandy was still asleep. By the time he got home at 2 p.m., Sandy was just leaving for her job at the popular Tampa bar, the Green Iguana.
On the 5th, she was supposed to get off at around 11 o'clock that night.
Troy indicated that he heard her car driving in, and then shortly after 11 o'clock, around 11:10 or so, he had heard what he believed to be firecrackers. Well, we assumed that was the gunshots. So we were able to determine about the time that the shooting would have occurred.
So Troy walks out into the garage to make sure she's okay, and when he walks up to the car, he sees her. She's got a lot of blood, and she's not responsive.
He thought that maybe she was alive. He tried to revive her.
That's when he picks up the phone and dials 911.
He was doing everything right that a victim or a witness does. But he was our suspect. He was our #1 suspect. Troy is still the first guy there at the scene, and he knows her way better than any of us do. So, we really need to focus on him and find out if he's the shooter.
Police then asked Troy about his relationship with Sandy.
He described a relationship as a romantic one. He was in love with this woman. Troy is telling us she's beautiful. She's got a daughter who's absolutely wonderful. He adored her daughter.
Troy was very happy with the relationship he had with her. He believed that they were going to get married. They just hadn't set a date sometime in the future.
I asked him, why would somebody kill Sandy? Is she involved in something else? And he says that, yeah. She said that anything ever happened to her, you need to go find Tracy Humphreys.
According to Troy, Tracy Humphrey is a dangerous ex-boyfriend of Sandy's, who assaulted her after she broke it off.
Troy is concerned that Tracy Humphrey was involved in the case, but couldn't find anything in our criminal justice databases to back that up.
We had nothing. There's no Tracy Humphreys, which obviously raises a flag.
The offerance, as we see of a ready-made suspect, a turnkey suspect, as I say, in the case of Tracy. It could be to create that distractionary suspect, to have the police go down that rabbit hole, and in the meantime, buy yourself time and space and options.
As police interview Troy, something unusual catches their eye.
He had some cuts on his hand, on his shins, on his feet as well. He said it was probably from the broken glass, from when he reached inside the car to try and pull her up to see what was wrong. So you start looking at Troy again, like, well, is this guy lying to us? While we're off running on a wild goose chase, our real bad guy could be, getting rid of the evidence. This Tracy Humphreys could be our main guy, but we're not going to lose sight of Troy.
In the murder of Sandy Rozzo, detectives reach out to friends and family, hoping they can fill in the gaps of her final hours alive.
It's always difficult to talk to a loved one after someone that they love so much was taken from them. They can't understand how anyone could do such a violent act, shooting 8 times into another human being. Sandy's mom was devastated, and she was crushed. She described Sandy as happy-go-lucky, fun, friends with everyone. We assured Sandy's mom that we're going to seek justice. We're going to try to find the person that did this and bring them to justice.
Investigators asked Sandy's mom about Sandy's relationship with the father of her daughter.
Her daughter at that point was living with her father in Alabama. There were indications that there were some contentious issues in their relationship related to maybe the child custody issue.
Jesse, the father of the child, currently was supporting the child, and he might want sole custody. He might want to be the only parent involved in the child's life. So he might be a potential suspect.
Lots of murders are committed over child custody. Emotions run high when children are involved.
We're going to do everything we can to find out if he was involved or not. So another detective and I drove up to Alabama to meet with him.
Jesse, when the detectives talked to him, there was a level of arrogance. Why are the cops here? Why it couldn't have been him?
Detectives take Jesse down to the local police station for questioning.
He said he would never do something like that. He said Sandy had a large part in her daughter's life, taking her on vacations, flying up there to visit her as often as she could.
Investigators look into Jesse's whereabouts on the night of July 5th, when Sandy was killed.
He said that night he was at home watching movies with his daughter and his girlfriend.
And at about 1 o'clock in the morning, he got a phone call. And that phone call informed him that Sandra had been shot and Sandra was dead.
To confirm his story, investigators need more information from Jesse.
We got DNA from him, fingerprints from him, and of course, phone information. You know, someone uses a cell phone, you can find out a lot about that person, more specifically where they're at. And at the time of the killing, around midnight, Jesse's phone records showed that he was outside the state of Florida at the time, which would have made it impossible for him to have been in Pinellas Park or anywhere near Pinellas Park at the time of the crime.
Detectives clear the father of Sandy's daughter as a suspect. Looking for new leads, they shift their focus to the Green Iguana, where Sandy was working the night she was gunned down.
The Green Iguana was a very busy, lively nightlife kind of place, more of a tourist crowd, tiki hut style bar. Sandy was successful in the job that she did. She interacted with people all the time. We actually went as far as to interview all of her coworkers, especially ones that worked with her that night. The folks she worked with were shocked, angry. Everybody that knew her liked her. So they were very upset that this had happened to her.
Detectives don't find anything suspicious about any of Sandy's colleagues, and they help fill in her timeline.
No one noticed anything unusual inside the bar that evening. And she had checked out of work at about 11:15.
We had somebody there that saw her leave when she drove out of the parking lot. To get her timeline down, we backed it up to where the time clock was, where she clocked out at about 10:45. And then we drove that route to the house. It was roughly 26, 27 minutes of a drive. So she would have arrived home right about 11:10, give or take a minute. That means that when she clocked out of work, she would have had to have gone to her car and driven home without any stop before she was murdered.
Having narrowed down the timeline of when Sandy was last seen at 10:45 p.m., investigators questioned Sandy's coworkers about her personal life.
Earlier, Troy told us that he was in a solid relationship with Sandy and everything was just fine. But her colleagues had told a different story.
She sometimes felt she was a roommate. Sometimes she would describe Troy as a boyfriend. It appeared to us in talking to everybody that she had a guy that liked her, that she felt comfortable with, but that it wasn't a long-term relationship for her, that she would eventually be either moving out or moving on.
You start looking at Troy again, like, well, he's telling us one story, but her friends are all telling us something else.
Once you start lying to investigators, the investigators are going to lay hard on that person and start to look at everything they've said.
The colleagues at the Green Iguana said that she was, I guess, fixing to have a conversation with him about maybe starting to see other people.
We know that threatened separation is a trigger in domestic homicides in a good portion of cases. And so, whether it's separation, jealousy, or perhaps a combination of both could have escalated this situation.
It's possible that his feelings are hurt. Could that make Troy go off the deep end? Could he have shot her? Maybe. It's possible.
Detectives are looking closer at Sandy's boyfriend, Troy, as the prime suspect in her murder.
Sandy had indicated to people at the Green Iguana, where she worked, that she loved Troy, and she was very thankful that he provided stability, but probably wasn't in love with Troy like Troy would have liked.
He's either A, completely in the dark, or B, caught on about it, and maybe that could be a motive to kill her. True crime of passion. If I can't have you, nobody can. Pow, pow.
Detectives question Troy again about Sandy's murder.
He's very distraught over this, but he's cooperating. Sometimes if you're staring at the face of evil and they really want you to think they are not it, they may cooperate 110%. I don't know if we're dealing with a sociopath, a true actor, or if he really is absolutely has nothing to do with this.
With Troy in their crosshairs, detectives look for any evidence connecting him to Sandy's murder.
We searched his car and his house, and there was no gun, no blood, nothing that at that point there really stood out as suspicious.
Detectives confront Troy about his relationship with Sandy, telling him that coworkers painted a picture that was less than perfect.
He was in a state of shock. He felt the relationship was maybe more serious, and she felt like it wasn't, but he didn't know she felt that way yet.
Even though Sandy may have been preparing to leave him, Troy claims it didn't change his feelings for her.
I think I do think he felt very devoted to her. That's the way he exhibited to us.
Even if Sandy's point of view of the relationship was way different than his, Troy was in love with this woman. And everything about her that he talked about was in a very loving and nurturing manner.
Detectives revisit the timeline to confirm Troy's story.
Here, establishing a time frame is important. We know what time she clocked out, what time he calls 911. Those are your two constants. Those are your two things that you can say, okay, this is definite. We have a time card, we've got a 911 call.
Sandy arrived home right about 11:10. That would confirm his story of when he heard the shot and him coming down to the garage and finding Sandy and then making the 911 call.
At this point here, everything that he told us, everything that I saw, everything that I observed about him, it seemed to be consistent with somebody that just lost or just saw the love of his life being, shot to death in a car and her blood everywhere.
Law enforcement eliminated Troy as a suspect as having been involved in the crime at all.
With Troy cleared in Sandy's murder, the investigation hits a roadblock.
We're frustrated. Who else would have had the motivation to have this done? Who would kill her?
She's a mother, trying to put money away and really have a successful life. Then when you start thinking about how she was killed, how she was shot, how many times, we really need to find the bad guy and lock him up.
Then detectives receive an unexpected break. Sandy's boyfriend, Troy, finds a folder belonging to her at the house. He believes it's filled with important information.
Troy gave detectives a folder that proved to be pretty valuable because they were the words of Sandy. So it was kind of words from the grave.
The folder contains Sandy's handwritten notes about her upcoming trial against a man she charged with assault and forcible confinement.
Sandy was going to be testifying in a courtroom in Tampa, and she was going to be testifying against a man by the name of Timothy Humphrey for committing the crime of battery and beating her. And that case was scheduled to go to trial shortly after this crime occurred. I believe it was in August, about a month away, that trial was going to take place.
Troy previously told police that Sandy's violent ex-boyfriend was named Tracy Humphrey.
It was in that documentation that we found that out, that his alias was Tracy, but that his given name was Timothy. Now we had his date of birth and all his information. That was the first key to really breaking the case open. Now we can start digging into this a lot more.
So when we got the real name, Timothy, we find out, whoa, this guy's got a problem with women.
Mr. Humphrey had served in prison for 8 years. If I had $1 for every woman he was violent on, I'd be a rich man today. I mean, he was always violent.
Then investigators learn more about Tracy's horrific ties to Sandy.
It was a year or so earlier. He kidnapped Sandy, held her against her will, and repeatedly abused her over a course of days. She ended up escaping the apartment or wherever it was and was found by a Hillsborough County deputy in the middle of the night, naked and beat up.
Throughout the ordeal, Tracy threatened her life, saying if she reported the attack, he would kill her because he didn't want to go back to prison.
He was looking at prison time for what he had done to her, and there were court dates that had come up very recently for her, and there was more on the horizon.
Even though Sandy was afraid and fearful of Tracy Humphrey, she was willing to come forward and testify in a courtroom and point the finger at the person who had molested her and beat her.
They had a victim that was willing to testify. They had DNA evidence, they have photographs. That was a good, solid case. And for that to go to trial, he was looking at quite a number of years for that. But Sandy was the only witness in that case. And if she wasn't able to testify, the case was going to get dropped or be what's called null prost, which means the state would not prosecute or proceed with the charge. You talk about a motive. That's a whole lot of motive. So at that point, Tracy or Timothy Humphreys really does become our #1 suspect.
That's a big game changer. Like, he went from who to the top guy on their list.
Detectives have their sights set on Timothy, AKA Tracy Humphrey, for the murder of Sandy Rozzo.
She was scared to death of Tracy. And now we've got a handwritten note that said, if anything ever happens to me, go find Tracy Humphreys.
Armed with new details about Sandy's potential killer, detectives track him down at a gym in the nearby town of Brandon, where he lives and works.
He was a strong, well-built personal trainer, worked out a lot. That was his job, that was his livelihood. A lot of people referred to him as the Mr. Clean. Tall, 6'2", 210 pounds, bald, wears an earring.
He acted like a domineering type personality where he felt like he was in charge.
Detectives tell Tracy Sandy's been murdered and question him about their relationship.
When he was told it was about the homicide, he acted like he was surprised. The initial impression was that he probably was hiding something about what he knew.
When detectives ask Tracy when he last had contact with Sandy, he shuts down the conversation.
At that time, he, what we call in the business, lawyered up. He said that he had a lawyer, and he'd be more than happy to talk to law enforcement if his lawyer was present, and his lawyer didn't want him to answer any further questions from law enforcement.
As detectives wrap up the conversation, they notice Tracy's wearing a wedding band.
Later, we found out that he had recently gotten married to a lady by the name of Ashley Laney.
Ashley was significantly younger. Not that we would judge that, but yeah, he was in his 30s and she was 19, maybe 20 at the time.
Hoping Tracy's new wife will be more forthcoming with information, detectives travel to their home in Brandon to talk to her.
When they went in to speak to her, she appeared to them to be nervous, but she did indicate that they had gotten married on July 4th. The day they got married was the day before the homicide occurred, and so that was very interesting to us.
Sandy Rozzo was murdered on July 5th, so that is intriguing because in Florida law, a lot of people believe that if you're married to someone and you're somehow in cahoots over a crime, that the spouse won't have to testify against the other spouse.
Detectives question Ashley about Tracy's whereabouts on July 5th, the night Sandy was killed.
She indicated, of course, that she knew nothing about the crime, knew nothing about Sandra being shot.
The fact that Ashley and Tracy get married the day before this murder, to me, is compelling, and to me, that's a red flag. At that point, anything they say to each other is protected by the covenant of marriage, which immediately makes investigating and then later prosecuting that much more difficult.
When police talk to Ashley, she willingly gives them her alibi for the night Sandy was murdered.
She told the detectives that on the night of the homicide, at 11 p.m., they were home together watching a movie, having pizza. And she said that they had a friend named Toby White who had come over and visited them at the house that night.
Then, in the middle of being interviewed by police, Ashley receives a phone call from her lawyer.
Tracy was very quick to have a conversation with what we believe was his attorney and have her tell Ashley that she did not have to cooperate. In fact, the detectives could hear the voice on the phone telling her exactly what to say to the detectives. So it was very, very suspicious.
Then, another surprising interruption.
Much to everyone's chagrin, Tracy showed up, and it was very clear that he was trying to get her to shut up and not talk.
He appeared to the detectives to be angry, frustrated just in his demeanor, through his body language and the look on his face.
That sort of got some gears turning in the detectives' heads that maybe there was a conspiracy to cover up what had happened with Sandy Rozzo, and perhaps was connected to the homicide.
Even though Ashley is no longer talking, the detectives have gained an important new lead.
Ashley and Tracy Humphrey's alibi for the night of Sandy Rozzo's murder was pizza.
So, we went to the pizza restaurant, found the driver, found the ticket for it.
The pizza was ordered using Tracy's cell phone on July 5th at 10:49 p.m. and delivered 15 minutes later.
The driver says that, yeah, I remember this guy. Gave me a $20 tip for a $12 pizza. Oh yeah, I remember, guy, bald, big guy, yeah, no doubt.
Other than just pizza, he got his alibi delivered to law enforcement.
With Tracy's alibi placing him in Brandon, 40 minutes from the crime scene, detectives determine he can't be the killer.
That had to take the wind out of the sails of the detectives a little bit because they were like, oh, we thought it was him. It fit.
It's always disappointing to have a setback like this one involving the alibi that ends up being firmed up. But at the same time, you need to be able to rebound and consider all possible options. In this case, what else is going on involving Ashley? And is she then the weak link that police need to be focusing on?
When detectives look into Ashley's background, they find an incident that piques their interest.
She'd been a pretty good student. She'd been a pretty good kid. She didn't have a criminal history, and she didn't have any problems. But we found out that she had reported her car as being stolen, and her car had shown up in a street in Tampa and had been put on fire. Law enforcement had got a call from a fire investigator with the State Fire Marshal's Service, who had found it very bizarre that the car had been found torched.
It's an arson. It's not hard to tell when a car's been burnt up with arson. There's usually quite a bit of evidence left behind that indicates that there was an accelerant used. And in this case, it was quite a bit.
Police look into the arson and learn that the same day that her car was found on fire, Ashley visited a firing range in the Tampa area.
Ashley Humphrey, we found, had been at a firing range. She had been there with Timothy Humphrey, and she had been learning to shoot a .22 caliber type of weapon. That was important information because we knew the type of gun that was utilized to kill Sandy was a .22 caliber.
Now dots start getting connected.
To learn more about Ashley and how she might be involved in Sandy's murder, detectives talk with her family.
What was really interesting was when they met with Mom's boyfriend, he says that he loaned Ashley a handgun, which happened to be the same caliber as the type used in the homicide, a .22 caliber, and he'd been asking for her to give the weapon back, and she hadn't yet returned it. We felt strong that we were on the right track, but you have to be careful in any investigation, but particularly homicides, that you don't get thrown off.
Then, Ashley's mother provides detectives with an even more shocking piece of information.
We were told in an interview with Ashley's mom that Ashley had told her that Sandy had been killed and Sandy was shot 8 times. Now that information was very important to law enforcement because no media had indicated 8 shots. That was never told to anyone, so that was an information that only law enforcement knew about and the shooter would have known about.
You know, as we start putting the case together, it's obvious that Ashley's involved, but there would be no reason for her to want Sandra dead, but for the case against Tracy.
Detectives then uncover crucial information that confirms they're working in the right direction.
So we got the phone records from Timothy Humphrey. We got the phone records from Ashley Humphrey. And we were able to determine that Timothy Humphrey's phone during the time of the crime was bouncing off a phone tower right near his Brandon residence.
While the cell phone records confirm that Tracy is where he said he was, the same can't be said for Ashley.
The cell phone records blew apart the alibi of her being at home all night.
Ashley's phone was being utilized outside the Green Iguana at about 4:30.
Her cell phone is telling them that she was right there. Not only that, but she was active on the cell phone. She called many times from the parking lot. And who was she calling? Tracy.
Then at about 10:45, that cell phone started to move once Sandy started to go home over the bridge into Pinellas County and bouncing off towers right outside of Sandy's house.
There she is, going closer to Pinellas Park, ping, ping, ping. And then when she gets to the house, ping again.
I think we got her.
Tracy Humphrey's wife, Ashley, is now the prime suspect in the murder of Sandy Rozzo. But detectives don't believe she acted alone.
Phone records pointed to the fact that Tracy Humphrey was involved. Tracy Humphrey had the motive. He had the desire. He had the will. He was the one that wanted her dead.
I think one question we have in these sorts of cases where there's a male and a female co-conspirator is that what role did Tracy play? What role did Ashley play? Did one influence the other?
Looking for more evidence, detectives turn to Toby White, the friend visiting the Humphreys at their home the night Sandy Rozzo was killed.
Toby White was an upstanding citizen. She didn't have any criminal history. We brought her in. I asked her questions, put her under oath. She had been a client of Mr. Humphrey's. Mr. Humphrey had turned her life around pretty much in her eyes, her health, her weight, and she felt beholding to Mr. Humphrey.
Police asked Toby where she was the night of July 5th, and she confirms Tracy's story, saying she was at the Humphreys' house from 9:30 p.m. until midnight.
So initially, Toby gives a statement of her being at the house with Ashley and Tracy, and they did have a pizza delivered. But we also have the cell phone records now, and realize that's not possible. Ashley was not at the house at the time.
We told her, basically, we didn't believe what she told us.
Lying under oath or on a sworn statement is perjury, a federal crime, and Toby could go to jail.
She would be facing criminal charges for perjury for lying, so she did recant and tell the truth as to what had occurred. Toby White's news story was that she did not see Ashley that evening, and she did not see Timothy Humphrey that evening, and she gave that false alibi because Mr. Humphrey had requested her to do so.
In hindsight, she realized that Tracy and Ashley were lying to her about what occurred and their involvement in the homicide.
On December 18, 2003, Ashley Humphrey is arrested for the first-degree murder of Sandy Rozzo. Without enough hard evidence linking Tracy to the crime, Investigators charge him instead with a federal firearms violation.
Timothy Humphrey was a convicted felon, and he couldn't own firearms, couldn't use firearms, so he would be unable to go to a firing range and handle the firearm. So we decided to arrest Mr. Humphrey on those charges, and he was held in custody in Hillsborough County. We wanted Mr. Humphrey to be separated from Ashley Humphrey. We wanted Mr. Humphrey not to be able to influence her.
With Ashley now in custody and away from Tracy, detectives are hoping she'll give them more information about the crime, but she won't talk.
When you have a character like Tracy, I don't think you can underestimate the kind of power that he could wield over Ashley. He had a past where he had been violent, and you have to wonder if Ashley did this because she was afraid of him.
Detectives dig deeper into Tracy's past, hoping to find some information that could compel Ashley to talk.
You know, stories upon stories that he told her, they were all fiction.
We found out that Tracy
had been in a relationship with another man, and Ashley knew nothing about those type of things. And she began to see that perhaps her whole relationship, the marriage and everything else, was all built on lies.
Of course, you're sitting in jail. You have to be wondering, have I been manipulated? And then all of a sudden, you learn that this guy who you're taking the fall for, that you could go to prison for the rest of your life for, has been cheating on you. So that was the final straw.
Stunned after realizing Tracy is not who he said he was, Ashley confesses to Sandy's murder and tells detectives where the murder weapon is buried.
We found the gun, which wasn't far from where I believe her mother lived. That's northeastern Hillsborough County.
Once Ashley starts talking, she reveals key information.
From day one, Tracy convinced Ashley that he loved her, and if they were to spend their life together, his problems with Sandy would need to go away, or else he was going to go to prison because he was being falsely accused, he said.
Ashley also admits she tried to kill Sandy once before.
The first attempt was several weeks earlier. Ashley's goal at that point there was to shoot Sandy as she left the bar. Ashley was zeroing in on Sandy, and she pulls the trigger, and then realizes that the bullet went through her mirror on the car. Well, that's going to be evidence. So Ashley and Tracy, in order to make the evidence disappear, had the car taken to a vacant lot, where they set it on fire.
As more and more evidence reveals Tracy's connection to the crime, police now feel confident they have enough to charge him for murder.
She was his firearm. Tracy pointed Ashley in the direction of his problem, which was Sandy, and she pulled the trigger. We wanted Tracy Humphrey. He was the person behind this crime. But for Tracy Humphrey, Sandy would be alive today. But for Tracy Humphrey, Ashley would have never done this crime.
The power dynamic in Ashley and Tracy's relationship underscores something called the Svengali defense. And this is a term in reference to the literary character Svengali, who's able to hypnotize and put sort of younger, naive women under his spell. And in this case, we have that exact scenario. Someone who, on their own, would never have committed this crime and was essentially duped into committing this crime by a very manipulative, overpowering, and unduly influential predator.
From Ashley's full confession, investigators are able to piece together Sandy Rozzo's final 24 hours.
It took a lot to put this case together. Every little thing is a small piece of a very large puzzle.
On July 5th, the day of the murder, Sandy starts her shift at 2:30 p.m. As she works the bar, Ashley drives to the Green Iguana at 4:37 p.m. and lays in wait for Sandy in the parking lot.
She had the .22 revolver at this time, the gun that she had borrowed from her stepfather. Tracy was directing her during that period of time. There was a substantial number of phone calls between the two.
Ashley had waited outside the bar until Sandy was done with work.
Sandy pulls out of the parking lot at 10:45 p.m.
And Ashley follows Sandy home.
Sandy gets home at 11:10 p.m. and pulls her car into the garage. Ashley enters right behind her.
Ashley looked into the window, driver's side window, saw Sandy, and then began to fire. Sandy was trapped. She couldn't get out of the car. She had put up her feet against the window, backing up towards the other side of the passenger side. Ashley continued to shoot and emptied the firearm, shooting her 8 times.
Tracy had told her, make sure that you look in her eyes and you can see that she's dead. And indeed, that's what she did.
After she kills Sandy in cold blood, the first call Ashley makes is to Tracy.
She said, "It's done. Now can I have my pizza?"
I mean, seriously, she orders a pizza. She just whacks a girl, pumps 8 rounds into a girl, and wants a pizza. Really? With extra cheese. He had told her that it's too late, I already ordered the pizza. Psycho.
In exchange for her cooperation, Ashley makes a plea deal, 25 years in prison for her testimony against Tracy Humphrey.
We would have loved to have prosecuted Tracy without giving Ashley a deal. Everybody has asked me, what do you think of her getting 25 years? Be honest with you, she should be life imprisonment.
A jury finds Tracy guilty of murder and sentences him to life without parole.
Tracy Humphrey was a controlling and violent person who thought he could get away with murder. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison, and he'll die in prison. And that's what I think all the family members and everyone wanted.
The part that stays with me is the bravery shown by Sandy Rozzo and the chance that she took to see that Tracy Humphrey was prosecuted, knowing that it perhaps would put her at risk, but that she didn't want to see other women victimized like she had been. One thing that I think is really important to remember about this case is Sandy Rozzo died a hero. And in many ways, I feel, very inspired by that. In some ways, I feel very sad.
There was a woman, a beautiful woman, who was a mother, who was taken from her kid by a monster. And my heart breaks for her family. My heart breaks for her daughter.